Gloria Nelson with the TUG organization, and it is my pleasure this afternoon to welcome you to the More Than a Storefront, Building the Digital Branch of the Future webinar by Znode. And at this time, I would like to turn the program over to Christiana Trapani, who is the marketing team lead and is going to introduce her presenter this afternoon. Christiana, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Gloria. I'd like to introduce Tom Flierl. Tom is the VP of Marketing at Znode, a enterprise B2B e-commerce platform. Tom has over 9 years of e-commerce experience helping manufacturers and distributors with their e-commerce strategies and moving their P&L online. Take it away, Tom.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. Quick agenda that we can walk through that we'll be covering today. In total, we're going to try and get through this webinar in about 25 minutes total. I'll start with a quick introduction, a little bit deeper introduction, and then get into a couple different topics. One, storefront versus strategy. Two, some of the important things to consider, customer experience, the data dilemma that many distributors are dealing with, the innovate and acquire situation that's going on right now with distributors, the desperate need for innovation, as well as the amount of mergers and acquisition activity going on. We'll talk a little bit about workforce trends and then finally technical considerations, but all this will be presented in the context of thinking about e-commerce as more than a storefront and the opportunity to solve for bigger problems in your specific business or enterprise. And of course, we'll wrap up with questions and answers at the end. So, quick introduction. My name is Tom Flierl. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at Znode, as Christiana mentioned. I've been in e-commerce for about 9 years. I originally started in B2C e-commerce and quickly moved into B2B e-commerce. This picture of me on the left. I'm not sharing my camera today because with the COVID crisis going on, I haven't had a haircut in 8 weeks, so I probably look a little bit more like this nowadays. A quick background, kind of a personal background on me and what brought me to B2B e-commerce, and that is growing up in a household where my dad was actually in manufacturing, and he was in charge of the maintenance department and MRO purchasing for a mid-market stainless steel foundry. And so I grew up with a dad who got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, put on a pair of steel-toe shoes, was out the door by 6, and basically went to work in his office, which was in the back of the plant. He usually had a cigar in his office lit up, and he had a library of catalogs that were behind his desk. But I learned a lot about the buying experience and what manufacturers go through in their buying process, and have applied a lot of that to my knowledge and consulting that gets done in the B2B e-commerce space. As Christiana and Gloria mentioned, I lead marketing at Znode. A brief introduction to Znode. Znode is a B2B e-commerce platform. We work across many different verticals within manufacturing and distribution. You can see a number of names up there. I'm not going to get deep into the product today. I really want to focus on consideration sets in thinking of e-commerce as more than a storefront, but wanted to give you a quick background on myself as well as Znode and why we're here on the webinar and why you should care. So getting a little bit deeper into the agenda and getting into storefront versus strategy. Often what we're seeing when we're talking with distributors is the idea of, it's very common to hear, we want to basically, we're looking for an e-commerce platform that can integrate into our ERP and can pull data out of our ERP. That is a common starting point with most conversations with distributors primarily. We even did have an inbound lead today from a distributor in the electrical space. And that was basically what they mentioned in their email back to us in scheduling our first meeting was we want to dip our toe in the water, start slow, and we want to be able to get information out of our ERP. And that's absolutely crucial. That is the first step in any consideration when thinking about e-commerce and successful B2B e-commerce. There's a lot more to it though. And that's because most of your customers, for those who are listening, don't really care about what your ERP is. They certainly want to see the data in it, but it really is about a number of other factors, and those are the things that we're going to cover in the agenda today. And what we're seeing when we talk about storefront versus strategy is, number one is thinking about what's happening across the board in e-commerce today. When you look at the data, 72 to 86% of companies, that's manufacturers, distributors, retailers, will change e-commerce platforms in the next 2 years. So as distributors are either looking at replatforming or maybe it's their first time to market, why is this mass replatforming happening in the marketplace? Some of it does have to do with technology considerations, and some of it does have to do with the evolution of e-commerce over the last 10 years. Some of the things that we see happening right now that are driving this replatforming craze are technical things. Things like complex architecture, integrations, lack of flexibility. You could put some labels on there like not enough core features to be successful in e-commerce built into the current platform. It could be issues with flexibility and architecture and needing to call a service, a support team that maybe can't really help you for a 2-week period before you're able to make those changes, get to market. And that's causing lots of stress internally in your company. Could be speed to market that's unsustainable. The ability to innovate, to stand up new catalogs, to stand up a store, taking lots of technical resources, lots of financial resources, and affecting speed to market. And then finally, most e-commerce platforms have a very expensive upgrade path. Many customers are experiencing that they've invested in e-commerce. They maybe get their storefront up and running. Could be 2 years later, 3 years later, that particular version of that software is being sunset. And now going through that upgrade process is almost like a complete re-implementation. So these are technical things that are impacting the ability for companies to be successful in e-commerce. But again, there's other strategic things. And part of that is the current state of e-commerce, particularly in B2B. Obviously, B2B is late to e-commerce. But when we're talking with distributors, even manufacturers, a lot of what we're seeing is this mentality of we just need a storefront, we need to pull data out of our ERP. Companies that are currently transacting in e-commerce and maybe looking to move to a new platform are playing catch up. They're trying to move to where the bigger enterprises are today, the Graingers, etc. And so they're really trying to get from today, to another version of today, not even tomorrow, instead of taking a look at the future and where is everything going to be going online. And it is difficult really to dip your toe in the water when investing in e-commerce, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to spend more. You just have to think about e-commerce more strategically than just a storefront. And part of my role in this webinar today, I'm really going to provide some thinking and some advice to challenge the status quo and hopefully open up questions at the end of this about different ways to consider e-commerce, strategy, and platform. A lot of this is going to be driven by data as well. So one of the first things that people are talking about when it comes to e-commerce in the B2B space is customer experience. And obviously a lot of that is being driven by the fact that Amazon has set the standard for e-commerce globally. And while it started in the B2C world, B2B has quickly followed, and B2B buyers now expect an Amazon-like customer experience. The number 2 most important feature when selecting B2B sellers, according to a survey of B2B buyers, which was presented by Digital Commerce 360, is the ability to get product details. So this is absolutely crucial, and this is where that conversation about we want to be able to connect to our ERP and get ERP data online in front of our sellers. Absolutely crucial. So some considerations when thinking about how to get those product details online clearly have to do with the integration of the ERP, the ability to enrich data, and the ability to pull that data easily into the front-end presentation layer of your e-commerce website so that your sellers can always see the most up-to-date data from products and refresh product information. and can access that very easily. The number one most important feature, though, I'm going backwards in order, is site search. And that is what's driving customer experience across the board with B2B e-commerce. Customers nowadays don't like to use faceted filtering. They don't like to have to surf a website. They want to go to a search bar. They want to type in a specific product number, a part number. They want to type in a word, and they want to get served what they want, when they want it, and buy immediately. So according to that same research survey, this is the number one most important feature that B2B buyers look at when selecting B2B sellers for long-term relationships. And there's other aspects to site search too that should be considered. Things like if you look at the trends in e-commerce, voice search is becoming very relevant. And again, it may not be relevant yet in B2B, but when you think about how Amazon and Google are enabling voice search, it's only a matter of time before that B2C trend hits B2B. And there are many applications in B2B for voice search. Somebody who's out in the field who's repairing a piece of equipment may have their hands full and may pull out their mobile phone and simply want to type into that search bar a part number, a specific product description to get that served up and reorder it while they're in the field. Other advances are QR code and barcode scanning and the ability to, again, be in the field or maybe be in a truck and needing to restock that truck, but being able to do it with a mobile phone and do it quickly and click on barcodes or QR codes to restock a truck or to find a specific part where they're in the field, or even find product information and PDFs to support their maintenance work that they're doing in the field. And again, when we talk about Amazon-like, it's not just the product information, it's not just the site search features, but it's also the ability to easily manage returns online. 51% of B2B buyers consider the online return process when choosing a seller. So it's looking at the entire journey from purchase, from searching and purchase all the way through returns for any products that may not necessarily be desired. And then finally, it's little things that are easy in B2B buying. Things like quick order, reorder, even in some instances, the ability to upload an order from an Excel spreadsheet and simply have it entered directly into the e-commerce site. Being able to manage things like kits, bundles, and configured products. These are all challenges for both manufacturers and distributors because this is complex products, but being able to put these online so that, again, customers can easily find that product information and make an informed choice and buy matters a lot in the process. And then other considerations, also making selling easier. 94% say that sales representatives improve the online buying experience. So again, it doesn't mean necessarily that salespeople are going away as more and more commerce is transacting online. It means that the salesperson may now play a role in that buying experience online and is acting more as a consultant and a guide rather than a salesperson. So looking at things like sales rep portals that enable your sales team to be much more effective in managing their customers and understanding their customers' most recent orders, most popular items, etc. Even the ability to order on behalf of customers, to log in similar to a customer service rep or an inside salesperson and place orders on behalf of customers, or even impersonate that customer online, where they can actually log into the actual session that the customer is in and complete that order on behalf of the customer. This is the new role of the salesperson. They play an important role in the online journey in supporting the customer and managing the customer, but they've moved from being a pure salesperson to a consultant. I'd strongly encourage anyone who hasn't read The Challenger Sale to read this book because it talks a lot about current methodologies for selling, and this does tie together the digital and the traditional world of sales. One of the main case studies in this book is actually the case study of Grainger and how Grainger moved their salespeople from going into companies and taking orders to going into companies and consulting with companies on better ways of managing cost, choosing the right products, etc., and encouraging their customers to actually place the order online. Great case studies, great examples in this book of the change in the role of a salesperson. This book was written at the same time that Grainger went through their digital transformation and how they align their sales team and their sales efforts to what was occurring digitally in the distributor space. Another consideration is not just, again, connecting into an ERP, but it's also the data dilemma, particularly for distributors. So again, 53% of B2B buyers name product content and product details as the top feature when choosing a seller. Some of the issues that distributors have is that they have to manage many catalogs by brand. They get lots of information that's syndicated from manufacturers, from buying groups, and they need to be able to quickly gather this information and integrate into their current e-commerce platform, enrich manufacturer data, enrich syndicated data that's imported, manage catalogs, and then again, manage complex products, kits and bundles, configured products. And of course, managing data is always a hassle because of contract terms. So being able to easily manage pricing at a customer level and applying specific contract pricing, volume pricing at a specific customer level are absolutely crucial when thinking about your next step or your journey in e-commerce. Innovate and acquire. This is where we get a little bit away from the traditional considerations of B2B e-commerce and thinking more beyond just connecting to an ERP and think about where the world is going. Thinking about not where are we today, not where are we tomorrow, but where are we going to be in the future. Welcome to the API economy. And this is really where technology is headed, but it's absolutely crucial for distributors and manufacturers to consider future states of e-commerce and future states of buying. So there's a study out by McKinsey, and the study, it's very deep, it's more than 20 pages, but they talk about distributors and their investment in technology. And distributors investing in digital capability enjoy much stronger margins and performance than those that are just earlier in their digital journeys. I didn't pull all of the data out of the study, but it documents very, very clearly how distributors that invest in technology see much better margin performance. And part of that is because those distributors are also able to innovate. They're able to build mobile apps. They're able to connect into vending machines or automatic restocking machines at their actual manufacturing customers' sites. And they're able to automate a lot more of their processes. And again, through that automation, capture greater margin. Any type of innovation of that nature is largely driven by APIs and the ability to access APIs and data. It's also driven by the ability to easily manage more stores and catalogs online, because every vending machine may have its own unique catalog with its own unique pricing. It could be considered a store in many ways. It's just that the storefront isn't physical in traditional terms. It's not virtual in e-commerce terms. It's actually a machine. And so being able to enable more stores is absolutely important. Being able to manage multiple catalogs and multiple brands or catalogs by customer is absolutely important. So we talk a lot with when we're consulting with customers, as particularly distributors thinking about e-commerce, is to think about the ability to do more commerce with one platform. And multi-store is another innovative feature to consider when looking at where you're moving with e-commerce. Multi-store allows not only for the traditional B2B e-commerce that most customers are thinking about in their journey, it allows for innovation, the ability to stand up unique stores, test new business models. Again, stand up stores that may connect into other appliances like a vending machine, or even stand up a unique URL that's highly search engine optimized around one or two unique products or a small limited catalog purely for the sake of building a database of new potential customers, and then driving those customers maybe to the traditional store or adding additional selected products to their mix over time once you've captured those customers as they're using Google as a means of searching for new products for their particular business. Or even create sticky experiences such as customer-specific stores, so a unique store branded only to one major customer where they have their own unique catalog, their own unique pricing, and their own unique user roles that are defined in the specific account. A great example of this, and I'm going to give some examples here, is F&M Mafco. F&M Mafco is a Znode customer, but what's unique about F&M Mafco is from a business perspective, they lease heavy equipment, power generation equipment, etc., to job sites, construction job sites. One of their business models, though, is they call it on-site support. And this is the ability for their customers to log into the F&M Mafco site and actually order all of the different supplies that are necessary for their on-site employees to use. It could be anything from safety gloves and safety glasses to Gatorade to hot chocolate and coffee, or even tools as well. It could be welding rods. F&M Mafco then uses that experience to build a unique store, which ends up being an actual semi-truck that is delivered to that job site. And as those employees come into that store or that semi-truck and remove inventory, through barcode scanning, that inventory is removed out of F&M Mafco's ERP. And they use the multi-store feature to be able to manage all of these different stores across multiple customers and multiple job sites across the United States. So that's one example in the construction industry and in the tool distribution space. Another example could be an electrical distributor. They may be thinking about the ability to support their branches and have their customers order online, stock their trucks maybe through the barcode app, and pick up their order at a specific branch the next day. Another way to consider multi-store would be those electrical distributors, which often have, same with plumbing distributors, often have showrooms, would be to use multi-store to stand up a B2C store for their showrooms, sharing that same catalog to consumers who are looking for products, because most consumers want to know something's in stock before they get in their car and drive to a showroom, if they are actually selling at that retail location, or they even want to know if that's in stock so that they can take a look at it out on the floor. And in that case, only showing consumer level pricing or a consumer price list, whereas they can use that same catalog and create a B2B store where their actual contractors that purchase from them can see their contract pricing and see what's in inventory at that level as well. So many applications of multi-store in the distribution space, which is again, a form of innovation that really hasn't brought front and center yet in B2B e-commerce. Another thing to consider when we're thinking strategically about e-commerce is workforce trends. Forrester recently mentioned or came out with a paper, Forrester Research, that we're moving into the age of the employee. And this can be seen with other third-party data. According to MDM's 2019 trend survey, attracting and retaining talent and replacing the retiring workforce were two of the top three concerns of distributors. So what does e-commerce have to do with that? Well, it actually has a lot to do with that. I was recently talking to the #1 sales rep at a medical distributor, a large national medical distributor, and he recently left his job because he was so frustrated with the technology. He's 29 years old. He obviously, while he was in school, he was using contemporary technology. Got to this distributor where he was performing very well, and he said that in order to enter an order into their ERP system, it took 18 steps. So to help his customers, it took him 20 minutes to log into the back end of the ERP and place orders. And he was both an inside and outside salesperson. So when you think about, well, what does it have to do with e-commerce? Is that An e-commerce platform can enable more contemporary technology. Things like an order management system allow salespeople to log into the e-commerce system and actually use a web-based user interface and place orders on behalf of their customers. But again, web-based technologies like that are much easier for a 29-year-old to adapt to rather than have to remember keystrokes and some of the more traditional ways of entering an ERP. Another thing to consider is knowledge transfer. As distributors are looking to replace those and same with manufacturers looking to replace the retiring workforce, knowledge transfer is a huge issue. That concept of using multi-store is actually another way of providing an internal storefront for distributor or for employees to log in and maybe see everything from cut sheets and PDFs to specific installation videos. This is content that may be out on the general public website or the B2B website, but it may be content that is actually gated and only kept in the internal store. So when 20-somethings and 30-somethings are joining the company and they have to quickly become that salesperson who is now a consultant, helping guide buyers through a journey online and helping consult with better ways to save money and select the right products, they're actually armed with their own store, which is highly searchable, has all of the product information, can be logged into to see their specific customer pricing, but also may have a number of videos, a number of product information sheets that will allow them to consult with their customer and be the expert. It's another way of looking at e-commerce as more than just a storefront, but maybe a third or fourth or fifth storefront that's specifically set up for their internal customer or their internal employees and to help facilitate knowledge transfer. And again, technology can go beyond the storefront in many other ways, which is in the age of the employee, and now we're in the age of the pandemic, the ability to have a distributed workforce. So having that built-in order management system and the ability to order on behalf of customers, impersonate customers, assist customers with returns is absolutely important. But having that as a distributed web-based platform also allows teams of customer service reps and inside salespeople to work from home. And while that work from home trend may currently be hot because of the coronavirus pandemic, it more than likely will be an ongoing trend coming out of this, as many companies have seen that efficiencies and productivity have not dropped off. Many parents are looking for more flexibility in their schedule. They want to be able to work from home occasionally to take care of a sick child or maybe even cover some of their child care during the day. So the ability to use an order management system in an e-commerce platform facilitates the ability to be ready for the next pandemic and the ability to work with a more flexible workforce at this time. A great example that we've seen in that particular, using that technology is School Uniforms by Tommy Hilfiger. Again, very popular brand, but not a industrial distributor. School Uniforms by Tommy Hilfiger is a manufacturer and distributor of school uniforms, and they actually have a B2B2C model. They work with school administrators of private and public schools to choose the uniforms. Those administrators choose the specific uniforms and a catalog is created for them. And then that catalog is published online in a unique school store, but the parents actually buy the uniforms. The distributed nature of the order management system and the sales rep portals is very important to them because they have peak seasons of buying. So between July 1st and basically September 1st is when 70 to 90% of their business is transacted. The other 10 to 30% is transacted right around the holidays before the second semester. They actually have an expanded customer service team that they hire that's contracted. So it's a third party in order to staff up for that volume of sales at their company. They're able to use a distributed order management system and actually use contract employees around North America to take phone calls and help impersonate and order on behalf of those parents who are logging in, who are looking for a great customer experience, and the school's reputation is tied to that customer experience. So they can go from 5 customer service people on any given normal day to 100 customer service people logged in around the country taking care of their best customers and providing a great experience for that school's reputation and for that customer as well to buy those uniforms. That same thinking and that same technology can also be applied to a pandemic and the ability to enable inside salespeople, outside salespeople, customer service representatives in traditional industrial distribution to do the same thing. And then finally, we're going to get into technical considerations and we can wrap up. I have yet to meet a distributor or a manufacturer who loves upgrading their ERP. And unfortunately, as we led off with many of the considerations of e-commerce and some of the things that are creating this mass demand for replatforming is the nature of technology. And so as we look at making suggestions to companies about what to look for in technology and support their journey in e-commerce, one thing is to avoid that expensive upgrade that is often experienced in ERPs and often experienced in e-commerce. And so moving from a traditional platform to an API-driven platform, the term is called headless, is a popular move right now by many manufacturers and distributors. And what headless e-commerce allows manufacturers and distributors to do is absorb consistent functional releases at a core, at an engine level or a core level of the actual e-commerce platform, apply that technology, retether APIs which attach to the front end or the sales app or the ERP, and get out to market much faster. So and additionally, any customization that occurs within that e-commerce platform or is needed is done outside of the API layer, which doesn't affect the update or upgrade process. So this in and of itself is unique from a technology standpoint, and it's a hot trend right now in e-commerce. But from a total cost of ownership, it's a huge consideration for distributors. Because instead of having to go through an upgrade process every 3 to 5 years, as many have to do with ERPs and current e-commerce platforms, those upgrade processes now take place maybe once every 10 years as major architectural changes are made to a platform, but aren't necessary to consume ongoing features and functionality or any patches or updates to the software. So over the course of say 5, 7, 8, 10 years, if you consider upgrades costing anywhere from $100,000 to $300,000, a manufacturer or distributor can save $400,000 to $1 million in total cost of ownership by choosing the right API first technology. And then final consideration, again, goes back to that customer experience and needing to get data from the ERP and display it in the front end layer or presentation layer of the e-commerce store. And again, using that API-centric thinking, understanding how an API-driven platform can not only reduce total cost of ownership, make it easier to present data into the presentation layer, but also make it easier to connect into an ERP, a PIM, a CRM, any third-party application by using a business connector framework and extending APIs and the data structure from that particular platform. It's a little technical, it's a lot to get into, but it is a consideration set when looking at ease of management, ease of use of a platform, and total cost of ownership. So hopefully, as we wrap up here, and again, I'm trying to stay within 30 minutes, some of the takeaways are that e-commerce is more than a storefront. The ERP is absolutely important because of the data it holds, but at the end of the day, e-commerce should be able to solve for more than just a storefront and more than just the ability to adopt current customers into buying online. And with that, we're going to open this up to questions. And I'm also going to put my information up here. You can see my email at the bottom, tom.flierl@amla.io. If anybody would like a copy of this presentation, it will be posted on the TUG website. We are also offering an e-commerce playbook for distributors. If anyone attending this webinar would also like to get a copy of that playbook as well, or just reach out and connect with any questions. And with that, we'll open this up to questions.
Thanks, Tom. The first question I have is, can you share an example of where a distributor could use a multi-store or multi-brand approach to drive new business?
Yeah, I touched on a little bit. That's a great question. I did touch on some of the multi-store or thinking in the webinar here. Ways to drive new business, though, are to really think about search engine optimized unique URLs that maybe focus on a limited catalog. And it may be to just, again, to sell more product, but another way to think of it is to actually get new customers and build a new database. If it's, I'm trying to think of a specific application, but it could be a specific type of industrial maintenance product. And owning that URL and those search terms, and MRO purchasing agents maybe are looking for a new way of using that particular, or looking for a new product. They find that URL because of a distributor buying some pay-per-click advertising on it, having an SEO optimized website, having an SEO optimized URL, and they purchase. Now that distributor has not only made a sale, that distributor has now got a new customer and basically has captured that customer data. They know the company name, they know the size of the company, they can enrich that data. They can now start to target that MRO purchasing agent. I'm going back to the experience of my dad, who was an MRO purchasing agent, with additional products. They can use that as a means of introducing that MRO purchasing agent to their brand, to their full line of products in their catalog. So it's not just about the sale. It's about customer acquisition and list building as well, and using new experiences online to further those causes.
Thanks, Tom. And then this question kind of encompasses a few questions that were asked. It sounds like you have an interesting product. How much technical experience is needed to create new catalogs?
So that's a product specific question because it varies in different e-commerce platforms, and I promise not to talk too much about the Znode product. So I'm going to give, there's really an array of answers to that. Some products, some e-commerce platforms, I should say, the master catalog is basically a database, and in order to create subcatalogs, some amount of replication of data needs to be performed, or strings have to be built to pull that data into another sub database, if you will, if you think of it that way, or additional fields within the database. Some platforms allow that product information to be displayed in a new website or to create a new catalog more easily. Specifically in Znode, the platform that we represent, it's very easy in the product information management platform that's built into Znode to create catalogs, because product information is stored in the PIM and unlimited numbers of catalogs can be created, and those catalogs are nothing more than a virtual replication or representation of the products that are in the PIM. So it depends upon the actual platform. Specifically in Znode, it's very easy to go into the PIM, pick specific products, create a catalog, and apply those products to that catalog.
Thanks, Tom. And that was the final question I had.
Great. Well, again, thank you everyone for attending. We appreciate it. If you have any questions, please do feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Feel free to email me directly. And we will, again, this presentation will be available on TUG's website, and we will follow up with the e-commerce playbook for distributors for anyone attending that is interested. Thank you so much, and I hope everybody is safe and healthy. Have a great afternoon.
Tom and Christiana, thank you so much for today's presentation. And as they say in Hollywood, that's a wrap.
Thank you, everyone.